Many thanks indeed, and absolutely great to see so many of you for our last event in this season. As I say, we start again in September. As I mentioned the flyer, I was introduced to Natalia through a mutual contact on LinkedIn. And from the word go, I remember we had a conversation. I think we were in a lay-by on one of the main roads locally, having a chat. And she's different. She's fun. And she talks about being radically different. And I wanted to know more. The conversation that we had was really excellent. And then she started to develop something about her knowledge, experience, and background. I thought this is going to be a real fun indeed, because she actually said, are you looking for a speaker that's different? Yeah, it's okay. We've got some great speakers, but it's different. Yeah. Well, wink, wink. You found one. A female business owner, entrepreneur, immigrant, resilient AF storyteller, visual innovator. But I mean, she's really interesting. Enough from me. Let's understand how to be different, or even radically different. Natalia, over to you, please.
Wow, how do I follow that? Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you, and totally no pressure. So I don't think that was so interesting how we met or how I was speaking, and now I need to live up to that. So let's see if I can even do that. But lovely to see everyone here. And I feel like some of you, we bumped into each other, or I've seen some of your faces. So if I have, please do say hello after and stay in touch. Before we get into it, hope you can see that. Hi guys, this is that different enough? Should we close there? Just thought I'll say hello in a very different way. But if I can share screen, let's see if I can master that. That would be good to start with, and let's just get on with it, because God knows how many slides I have and not enough time. Can you guys see my slides? Can I have thumbs up?
Good. It looks really good, Natalia.
So that's another thing. When you get a professional photographer and they make you look really wonderful, as Carl Macbeth did, my lovely friend who I can send details of, this is how you look like. And then I look today more like my mother, which is actually a compliment to both of us. So I'll just take that. But if you wanted to quickly even scan, this is myself on LinkedIn. Otherwise, we can always, of course, say hello after. Thank you so much, Steve, for having me. This is really, really exciting. Normally, I work with people like yourselves. I don't really speak to that much, but let's today do something else and dive right into it. So different you. So I always think speaking is not about me. If I can say one thing, if you can take away one thing from today, I've done my job. If you haven't, then fire me, fire Steven, fire all of us. Because at the end of the day, I'll be sharing my story. I'll be sharing some examples, how to be different in the world of work, and what's hopefully different about me. Maybe you claim I'm actually not that different, and maybe that's a good thing. Then challenge me and tell me that. But really, at the end of the day, I want you to think about yourself here as you reflect. And I want to ask you to think through this, whatever we have time, what makes you radically different from everyone else? Because I bet that if we were all closer friends and we were sitting over fire or something, you all have some stories or some quirks about you that make you totally different. Because guess what? There's no one else like you in this planet. There's never going to be anyone else like you unless you have a clone somewhere in Area 51 in US and we don't know. And you should be embracing that more, because I think there's enough of us on this planet, and if we're all the same, what's the point? So as I speak through today, just have a think, have a wonder, even maybe have a sketch or a doodle if you find that that's inspires you to think about something. Right, so let's dive into me, because Steve told me I need to talk about myself. Different me. I don't know how different I am, but when I think about my journey, I always say, do you have a time for espresso or wine? So today I'm just going to do espresso because we don't have much time, and I like to talk because my surname starts with talk. Sorry, that's just meant to be. Well, you're looking at a kid that was born in Poland, communist Poland, 80s. And what can I say? simple child, black and white photos, not much going on. I grew up in a very small town in Poland. There was nothing really kind of happening around me. And so I think the creativity and the juices of that had to be somewhere kind of created. So suddenly the simple playground became a castle. Suddenly the blocks of flats became mountains, and you just had to really come up with stuff to do because there was not much to do. And in communist Poland, if any of you is interested in that sort of time, it was very not much to buy or go to. Travel wasn't a thing, and basically it was all about kind of parents at work, and you are there to sort yourself out. I also come from a quite, I would say, household that was at times volatile and difficult to be in. And I think that my early kind of love for drawings and kind of illustrating was very much an escapism for me, where I could find myself very peaceful and in my space. And as they say, if you want to become a master, you need 10,000 hours to do something. I guess that was my 10,000 hours since I was a little kid. Now I want to ask you, actually, feel free to, for a second, unmute yourself if you can. If you can't, we'll leave it for later. But I wanted to ask you, what can you see here? And I can give you just one kind of hint that it was for a pitch. 5 minutes before the pitch, I just needed to sort out my thoughts. Some people have words, some people have slides. That's my slides in my head. So this is just to show you how my brain always worked since the days of school. I shouldn't be saying that, but thanks to that, I probably went through school very easily. Whenever there was a test, I would do the answers. If it was history and there was a certain fight at this place, at this year, I would just doodle everything up. My teacher would pass me during tests and they'll be like, lovely illustrations, Natalia. How wonderful. You're so creative. I'm like, test done. So this is just to show you, I guess, how in a kind of intense way my brain works. It always has been connecting fast information with visuals, therefore I can remember. And this pitch, thankfully we won, and it was for financial institution, yes, and it was to present kind of how we're going to work with them top to bottom, plus everyone else that kind of got it. Well done. So back to my journey, I went to England, to London in 2008. Now I think the purpose was just to do my MA studies in translation and come back. I didn't come for love. I didn't come to work. I purely went to study. And that was the plan. And suddenly little Natalia gets excited, curious about what is London, what is networking, why are all these people meeting for these coffees and what's happening? And shortly, I stayed. My mom was like, oh, are you going to be okay? And I was like, we'll figure it out. I got a job as a special needs art teacher. Very much that was my first job because I could teach. So that was very easy for me to get to. And there was so much need that basically schools were calling me left and right. And I was very proud to work in that space. Difficult emotionally, but it was a great start for me to see the scene of work and start working in a team and give value as I was in this country and developing my art little interest on the side and doing gigs for free. And at some point I even ended up at Christie's for Task Trust, which is royal charity, for Prince William's charity, and I was standing next to Wallace and Gromit author in my gown, and my illustrations were in a book for elephants. And I was like, how the hell did that happen? So that's another story for another meeting, but just to give you kind of the sense of, I guess, curiosity was leading me to very different places, and I knew that there's something there, but I didn't know how to get there. And then we move on to 2011, where I got a job at a startup because I thought it's cool. I thought it's going to get me somewhere, but quickly I realized I was underpaid. I was earning 14K a year, and I was there from 7 a.m. to like 10 p.m. And the CEO was driving up in his red Porsche saying to everyone what they need to do and left. And that was pretty much almost like half a year of my life. And at that point, you suddenly get a bit uncomfortable. You look at what's out there in the world. And I tweeted someone, and that's the story that Stephen knows tiny bit and the start of it. It's a bit like a movie, but long story short, I tweeted a businessman, charity owner called Darren Robson. And I said, hi, I would like to meet you for a coffee. Would you meet me for a coffee? I'm so curious to meet you. I do all these things. Of course, that was in 120 characters. And guess what? He said yes, which freaked me out because no one kind of just says yes. And, you know, obviously you get in touch with so many people. Some say yes, some say no, depending on the right moment in time in life. They care or they don't, they can't care. There's not enough time or capacity in their life. So he said yes, we met, and it was honestly the most powerful hour of my life. The story is quite extent, but I'll just keep it short for this talk. He in an hour literally changed my life, and I will always say that because it was the first male character, I think, in my life that showed me that I matter, that I have something there going on for me, that I make some sense, hopefully, and that I've got some talent that is kind of left alone. So how that showed itself is he kind of looked at my portfolio, me blabbing for probably 40 or something hours, excited and hyper, and said, well, you're stupid. You should just leave your job. I don't know, like, what are the cogs of it, but like just like set up some website, get a card or whatever kids do. This is my number. When you're ready, call me up. I work in consulting. I work with different companies. I have no idea yet what we can do, but like, you've got talent and companies would love that. And I was sitting there like, who does this? Okay. And I did what he said. I called him, and longer story short, he basically decided to become my mentor. I was his first mentee for his charity for entrepreneurs called Mo, and it still goes. And he decided to pay me for the next 6 months to cover my expenses of living, and mentored me like a wild beast. And literally changed my life because I wouldn't start what I do without him. That's him. That's me ages ago, literally in my bedroom, because I decided we're doing an interview. He said yes. And unfortunately, the story finishes quite sad recently because 3 months ago, he suddenly passed away at 50. And that literally shook my world and changed my life to another dimension. And I'm still processing it. Thanks for therapy. I highly recommend to anyone. And I bet some of you have people that you lost in a very saddened way and unfortunate way. So all I can say is, if there's one lesson from this experience, is I will forever, until my last day on this planet, believe in mentoring. I feel like more of us with our knowledge and expertise could do that. And the world needs more people that believe in you. So if you are that person for someone, or if you feel like someone can do that for someone, just encourage that, because literally I wouldn't be here speaking to you and living the life that I do if it wasn't for this human. So just wanted to add that on and kind of inspire you, because I bet so many of you are amazing, smart people, and the world needs people like you and your knowledge and your expertise. So Natalka Design came to life. And it was just me running around with a pen, sweating, not knowing what the hell am I doing in these rooms, to fully fledged team. It's few of us in the core team, and it's at this point 50 plus creatives, consultants, strategists, all over the world. I can bring a team together in a matter of a few days if I need to. And we do very much visual strategy and event visualization. And why? To help clients like you win and attract and compel and whatever other verbs that they've been using that I need to remember when people brief me. We want to win, we want to attract. Okay, let's do that. This is just a quick kind of credentials. Sometimes when I look at this wall, and we haven't been updating it because we're a bit like lazy with that, I sometimes go like, how did we get here? Clearly, this is something that companies treat seriously. And I always thought it's going to be maybe something for individuals, which would be lovely, or charities. But actually, most of briefs started with, we want different. And I quickly realized that different means that they want to bring their stories and their messages to life, to engage with other humans in a different way. And the skills that I possessed, and then quickly my team that I trained myself, seem to be different. Because what I quickly learned is, we have all this information in the world. Everyone wants to say something. We all have amazing ideas and businesses that we run or work for. But actually, if we don't make sense out of that information, if we don't help people to relate to it, there's not much out of it, I guess. And it kind of gets lost in the crazy amount of information that we're up against every day. Little exercise. You see what's written. Can you think about an elephant? I know this is super random, but just go with me. You have like 3 seconds.
Yep.
I bet you already have an elephant in your mind. Trust me on this one. And just like visualize it, picture it like strongly. I hope we all have seen what an elephant looks like. Why I do that, you'll be like, what am I doing here? It's 6 p.m. I'm hungry. I want to go. Why am I doing that? It's because this literally describes what I do with my team and why visual communication is somewhere important. Because I mean, I bet maybe some of these elephants looked like this. Maybe they were different. I don't know. Maybe completely different, maybe sketched, maybe big, maybe small. I would ask you now, but we don't have time for that. But the point is, I always do this with the clients because think about, you've got a strategy in your business. And it's kind of like asking everyone, can you imagine an elephant? That's the strategy. Until you actually place that elephant in front of people's eyes, they might have a different perception of that elephant, different size, different color, different whatever. So putting that elephant in front of everyone that they can go and shake their heads that this is the elephant we're going to work with will help you to drive that change, drive that strategy quicker, better, easier, and more aligned. So before we start anything, I always remind everyone of the elephant and they're like, yeah, what's the elephant? Let's bring it to life. And these are the people that I would like to say thank you to. These are the founders of my business before even Darren. First storytellers, first people that made any sense out of their existence, cavemen. So before there was French, Turkish, Polish, American, whichever language, people were creating stories on walls, on trees, wherever they could find, in caves. And why? Because they wanted to make sense and capture in time what they're about, what's their lives like, and what's happening. So I would like to send some invoices to these people or their families. And this is literally why I guess I can do what I do, because the proof is way before me that this is one of our first languages that we connect with. Now, quickly into kind of different in action. I'll try to be as succinct as I can because I have millions of examples and I'm already probably out of my time. So this is purely to kind of get you into the world that we live in, take from it whatever you want and need, leave anything that's not needed. I want you to be very open-minded that this is not something necessarily you need to do in your business or promote. This is purely to think to yourself constantly, how could I do this in a different way? And if it hasn't been done before, why don't I try? It doesn't mean that I shouldn't. It doesn't mean that it's straight away risky. I love that word. Let's try to stay away from the word risk and kind of really go for it. This is one of our latest examples in the real world. We joined Cannes Lion. I don't know if you guys know, big event in Cannes for a week. Everyone gets tipsy, if I can just call it that way, and enjoys beautiful communications world. And we basically were invited to capture what's going on. Millions of talks, sessions from the biggest names in the world. And in short, the main thing, we blew up their social. We basically brought it to 4 times more engagement, more visibility. Top names in the industry were sharing these stories. And it just created so much buzz and so many new partnerships that they're literally like, let's speak next year. Yes. Next one. Oh, and this is just to show that these visuals are always top tweet, top media tweet. We kind of almost like, I feel like I just need to show this in my pitch deck and that's it, because it just works. And why does it work? Just to give you a sense of it, we stop on anything that's visual. We passed anything that's non-visual. If we have the gift of eyes, this is how our brain works, and it's curious. That's why Instagram loves us and takes all this time from us, because it's all visual and you can go and go and go. And suddenly after 2 hours, you're like, whoa, I just sat here 2 hours and all I've seen is cats. So be mindful when you do that in your own time. Use it in the business when you can, because it's one of the top tactics in terms of engagement and keeping those eyeballs on. Adopt and encourage lateral thinking. So I'm a huge fan of lateral thinking because it's basically problem solving in a different way. So they call it in a creative way, but what's creative, right? Anything that you can think of can be creative. So an example of this one, creative, was that the client had all this massive wall of screens, and they were always used for kind of like the design, the pattern of the company, kind of massive logo, nothing going on. And to be more sustainable and to be more creative, hopefully, and to kind of allow everyone to be immersed in the experience of making sense of all the information that we captured, we blasted all on screens. And it was a beautiful experiential piece almost of communication that was standing in the company for months and months and months. Every time there was a client, they were, whoa, it was a theatrical experience. Everyone could engage with it really in a massive format. And suddenly those screens meant a bit more than just kind of showing pretty things. So again, it was a bit like we've never done it, but like actually, so why not? Let's try. And with what we do, we always try to think sustainability first. That's another example with animation, but again, in time and like in terms of like where I am with time, I'm going to skip. And here I just want you to think about tolerating failure and encourage risk taking. And what I mean by that is, for example, this project at the beginning, it failed. So we tried to create a VR experience where during a conference, people would leave their thoughts and ideas from the day in putting their VR headphones on and just drawing with pens what they think and going through a gallery of speakers and things like this. It failed because there was no software that can do it. So at the beginning, we were working with a client. They're like, oh, guys, what's going on? How are we going to do it? There was a lot of nervousness and stuff like that. But at the end, we pulled it off. It was still in places clunky, but the people loved it. No one knew there's a lot of actually issues in the background. And it was an amazing different experience that people still talk about. So I would say, don't be worried about failure and just move on and test it, because otherwise nothing's going to happen. And maybe last one, have fun at the workplace. Please, please, please don't forget that. Like, fun is really important. I feel like without fun, there's no progress and there's no innovation. We do so many sessions where instead of dry all hands and this is the update from the week, we just dive it into, we almost gamify these experiences for clients, and we find ways to make everyone have some fun, because most of our lives we spend at work. So why does it have to be so dry so many times? I would just say that. And experiment. Few more pieces. I promise I'm almost done. During a royal engagement, I don't know if any of you follow or care or are fans or not. Let's leave the politics out of the window. But during the engagement season, we sometimes like to be very timely with our ideas and creativity, and let's say call it different. And we just popped a few illustrations here and there, congratulating in the right time and moment. And we were trending for like a few weeks. And how that, what that meant is, behind the scenes, we were invited to royal gardens for some tea at some point. And of course, I have no pictures, nothing, but trust me that I ended up in a freaking Buckingham Palace thinking, what is my life? So different. Then a few more, just maybe on a more kind of regular level. I really loved a podcast run by Dan called Heights. He was interviewed by Stephen Bartlett, if you follow the Diary of CEO and people of that level doing podcasts. And I was like, it was COVID. I love Stephen Fry, doodled here and there, kind of the talks and everything. We ended up being creative partners for Heights for their podcast. They loved it. The newsletter had always double the views, and the visual was basically doing the marketing for them, because people were co-sharing, the speakers were sharing, and everyone was kind of almost, what is this thing? I love it. Give me more. And one last one that you feel free to judge me, guys, feel free. But you know what? We all know who's Kardashians and they're powerful. And Khloe Kardashian shared my visual, but that is from like 2009, when I had a lot of time on my in my day, and that blew up my business. So again, talking about different, I kind of almost don't care again about politics and who is on what level, whatever. I approach every human the same way. I approach every story in the same way. If there's a story, if there's fun to be had, if there's something we can do differently, why not? So, few key points and I will zip. I would all like you to be more vulnerable if you can. If my mentor wasn't vulnerable with me, that wouldn't teach me to be more vulnerable. And I always believe in just showing yourself as you are. We are all humans. We are all professionals. I know that you're doing some amazing things in this world, and it's very important for you to have a status and have your name being very kind of, in a positive light. But equally, it doesn't mean that you need to like share some personal things that you're comfortable with. It just means that you show up as you are. And for example, I wrote this article ages ago on LinkedIn, and it's still one of the most viewed articles that I've written about starting a business. And I've never, studied one lesson in business. So technically, you should all just like not trust me, close the door and question me and my skills. But actually, that is me showing that is my experience. That's where I'm here. I know I bring value. I know because I can see the results of it. If you want, feel free. There's a scan me, to the article. And it's just my encouragement to you to show a bit of yourself more. Life is short, and I'm sure you're all super interesting people that I would love to and everyone else know more about. So that's my little push your way. If you have thought about it, maybe you're shy. I would like to champion the unusual. So whatever that means to you, again, you don't forget it. You don't have to use any of these visuals, but whatever is unusual around you in your world, champion it. Whoever is unusual around in your world, champion it. Don't be scared of it. Explore it. If it's uncomfortable, maybe that's a good thing. If you haven't done it, maybe that's a good thing. Why doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it? Who said that? There's no rules as far as I'm concerned. And again, recent situations taught me life is very short, and why not? Quick example, a client was struggling to get replies from another client because they weren't paying them on time. And we thought, how about forget an email? Let's just draw a snail with an invoice and show them that they're super slow and annoying and see what they're going to say. Some of these details, by the way, have been changed for different reasons. And after 2 days versus 6 months, someone replies, started laughing. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. The team has changed. Oh my God. Like, we're going to pay. This is so fabulous and so funny. The director was laughing all day long. Now, my client wasn't laughing because the payment wasn't coming, but at least the response was there. And that was a different way of communicating. And last one, tell stories that stick. We all have stories, and we all know when stories are interesting, when they're boring. So just try to figure out, even with your friends or before you share any sort of way of communicating, just see if that information can stick. You don't have to draw anything around it if you don't want, but how can you make that stick? So think about even one way how you can turn that piece of information to something else. And I will stop there because I already overused my time, and my God, how many slides? I'm sorry for that if it was too many. I wonder if anyone wants to share their ideas on what they think makes them radically different. And feel free to say whatever is on your mind. It doesn't have to be anything mind-blowing. It can be just something completely normal. For reference, I just spoke before this with my friend, and she said, I love penguins. My whole life is around penguins. If I wasn't doing what I do, and she's a very professional, badass businesswoman, she would just be filming penguins in Arctica. And she actually applied for a job. She didn't get it. So just for reference, doesn't have to be deep. Anyone wants to share, and I will give myself a moment.